Good evening, everyone. My name is Tochindukwe, and this is the project one of class CMP 167. And this is a project called MyCalculator project. And also, this project requires us to make a calculator and two different kinds of calculator, which is the standard and scientific parts of a calculator. Also, I want to explain that the standard part of calculator is able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And the scientific part of the calculator can also do the same thing, but it does extra things, just like it can find the cosine, sine, and tangent of a number. And the standard calculator cannot. So that's the difference between the two. And also, so to start this calculator project, I have to import a scanner, and I have to make the public class, making sure that that's the correct name, that's the correct class, which is MyCalculator. And I also have to make up a public static void main string, and make a scanner object, which I did this part. And then I also had to make variables. So this part is the scanner, and also have to make variables, which I made a string variable, double, integer, and a character. So I made the string inputs, which I'm gonna use to differentiate the calculator names, and I'm also gonna make another string variable deep in the, when we go down through the code, I made a different variable to make the calculators. But these are the ones that we're gonna use to capture to know whether it's a scientific or standard calculator. And the double number is what I'm gonna be using on the scientific part of the calculator. And the integer number is what I'm gonna be using in both the scientific and the standard, which the both of them have this in common, which is to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And also, I made a character and I named it decide, because I want to decide or make a decision if I want to continue running, if I want to start over the calculator, or if I just want to stop running. And so first of all, I started by making a dual loop. So in which I input the first part, which is to know the calculator mode that I'm gonna be using, to know like the printout, if it's gonna be standard or scientific calculator. And I also have to attach the variable that I made over here to a scanner object. So this is what I did. Sorry, this is what I did over here. So I have to attach it to a scanner object. And then after that, I have to just say, okay, to make the calculator. So first of all, since this was a string over here, right, I had to do user input does equals. This user input is here to show for the which calculator. So we're first starting with the scientific calculator, is to like just identify which calculator we're working for. Is to identify the two calculators. And then if for this calculator, if you put in scientific in here, let's say we run this code and then you type in so this have already put in like the calculator mode that I just put in here. So it's already, as long as you run this program, it's gonna put in the calculator mode. So let's say we're running for scientific, and this is one. So this is what it's gonna say. The calculator will operate in scientific mode. So this is what we print out. This is what it's gonna print out when you type in your calculator mode. So this one is the scientific mode. And you see what it says, sine is for sine x. It could be a number or anything. And for cosine and for tangent. And we also have to make another string. So we also have to make another string, which we did. We made a string operator, and we also have to make it into a scatter object. So this is what we're gonna be using inside to make the calculator, like to make for the addition, the subtraction, everything in here. This is what we use it for. So to make the addition, the subtraction, multiplication, division, and every part and every other part, the cosine, the tangents, and sine of the scientific calculator. So this is what we use in making that. So we'll say, so when we go in, say, so this is what is gonna print out. So you see these parts on the screen, this line over here. So this is what is gonna print out. This is what it does. So this is the parts of a scientific calculator. This is, it could actually do, is capable of finding all these things in this place. And this line 51 is capable of finding even the sine, cosine, tangents, and also the addition and the multiplication part. And so to actually start, I actually started with the cosine, which I started and I used, as you can notice, I used the operator, the equals, because this is what I want to use to identify like the parts of the calculator. So the user input over here was what I actually used for the, let's say for the name of the calculators, for the calculator name. And this one is the operator part is the parts of the calculator, right? So let's say this is the cosine part of the calculator. And when you type in, let's say cosine, I'm gonna do right now. I'll type in cosine. It's gonna say, it's gonna print out, enter a number in radians to find the cosine. So this is the thing it's gonna print out because this is the cosine that I typed in. That's why it's printing that. And I also had to make a num, and that's like a scanner. And I have to say, I've already made, like you can notice, I already did like a double num. I already declared the variable in the very beginning of the code. So I'm gonna have to go back and show you. So this is the, we're attaching it to a scanner because we need a scanner for each part so it could read each of the inputs and everything. So this would be the double results. We want the result to be in a double. Because for cosine, tangent, and tan, sorry, for cosine, sine, and tangent, it mostly a lot of times have to appear in a decimal. So that's why we have to use a double. We really cannot use an integer for that part, or like we cannot really use an int for that. So the result is, so this is what we are going to use. And we said the result is going to be equals math. So in Java language and mathematics. So this is what we're saying, math dot cosine, that's the cos. And then this will be what we want to print out. This is going to actually be the number that we want to print out. And then when it's printing it out, it's going to be, so it's going to come in this way. It's going to print the results in the mode is going to be, okay, let me just put in a number. So let's say 2. I'm trying to put in a number. So this is the result already in decimal because it's double here. So it's already in decimal. So they said this is the number, the results. This is the result that is actually going to print out. Go over here. Okay. So the same thing goes for tangent, which is tan. So this is exactly the same thing. So let's say I want to start over and I put it scientific, and this will be tangent. And so I'm trying to find the number in tangent. So I'll try to put 2. And you see, this is exactly the same thing. But the difference is that it's in tangent. And this part, I just had to change it to math.10 because we are trying to find like the tangents. But this is exactly the same thing that I did in the first part. And this is what it's gonna print out. It's gonna say enter a number and radius to find the tangent. And this is what it asks. This is what it wants to do. So I put in 2, and this is the result it's giving me. And the same thing, okay. So this part is the similar part that, okay, this is not the part that is similar to the standard calculator, which is the addition, multiplication, the division, and the subtraction part. So this is how we do it. So let me just start. Let me run this code again. And I'm gonna put in scientific. And okay, let me just put addition since that's what we have here. And okay, so you see now, you notice this is what it's gonna print out. Just immediately as I put in this addition sign over here, it's already asking me how many numbers do I want to add. So this is the same thing that we are seeing here. That's what we're seeing on the console. So I want to add 2 numbers, and it's asking me enter 2 numbers. So if you notice here, this is my number. This is one of the variables I already declared in the very beginning of the code. And I said that I'm gonna be using that for both the standard and the scientific, just like the part that they are similar, the addition, multiplication, and subtraction parts. And this is not the scientific part of this calculator. This is just like the addition part. So this part, this number, I came in here where this is where I'm gonna use this variable. So I had to attach it to a scanner, and in form of an integer. So I had to do it as an integer because the number that you might put in could be like in form of an integer. So if you put it as a double, it may get an error. So if you put in, let's say, so this is the number that we are gonna, this is the integer that we like the number that we're gonna put in. So this is the number, this is where the number is gonna print. And if you put in plus, it asks me enter 2 numbers. So I already put 2. So this is the 2 here that I'm highlighting. So this is 2 that I put in here. So this is the input, and it says enter 2 numbers. And so this is what I'm not gonna put in 2 numbers, and I'm putting in an integer because I think if I put in a double, what if I put in an integer actually? So this is an integer that I'm putting now. So if I put in a double, it may get an error, and it's not always mandatory that you have to put in a double. So I put in 2 numbers, and I get 3, and I get it in double. So it doesn't have to actually be in double. It could be an integer. So you see, that's why right here when I was making it, I didn't put like dot next double because it's not really. I could also do it as an integer, and then that's what I'm putting in here, and that's way easier for me. So I did it, and it's still gonna come out in double because the result is in double already. So it's still gonna be in double. As I already initialized the variable result in a double, and I initialize it to 0.0. And I also have to make a for loop. Let's say I declared let's say the variable I equals 0, and I also made the math for it, like the way you have to be, like, let's say I is less than number, and then increments by 1, like +1 in each loop as we go. So that means you could put any number and double. So in here I had to create double new num. This part I had to create double new num. That's a new variable that I'm creating, and I'm also attaching it to a scanner in one line. So, and I actually called it a double, not like an integer. So, and going down, this is how I put it together. And I said, and I wrote results. So the result is gonna be equal to the result, the integer, plus the new num. So this is gonna be the input that you're gonna be putting in. So they're gonna be adding each other. So that's gonna be the result. And so when you're printing, so when this is printing, it's gonna say send the other print line, and it's gonna print it just exactly like this. So it's similar to something the last one I explained, the cosine part. So the result is gonna be in this form. This is just gonna be the results, the string part, and this the result is gonna be the print, the part that's gonna print, and the 3.0 is gonna be like the double, the decimal, the number. And exactly the same thing. The same thing happens here, but it just has a little difference over here. Is that first of all we have to make a new variable over here actually, and that we're making a different variable for each part of this project. So we attach it to a scanner over here, and so we have to make an if statements and make like I to be equals to 1, so that it could start from 1 and subtract, so it could make a difference. So the result is gonna be equal to the variable diff. That's the name of the variable. And so the same things, a little something similar to this part. So that's the same thing that I'm putting here. But it is different because this part is subtraction. And so if you go, it just prints in the same method. And exactly, yeah, then the same thing also continues. And the difference here, we didn't make an if statement over here, but I didn't make an if statement, but the difference is that the double, that this part we made a new variable. We made 2 new variables, and we have to initialize 1 to 1.0, and the other one we have to, so that's what we're gonna be multiplying. That's the product. So that'll be the number. And it also prints the same way that it prints in the other ones. And the same thing also happens in here. The same thing also happens. The results is gonna be divided by, whatever input that you put in. There's just this, all these things are gonna be the input also. And let's say over here, over for this part, I made the result to be equal to quotient. So the result is gonna be divided by the quotient, and it's also prints exactly the same way. So this would be exactly the same thing that happens in the standard calculator. So this is exactly the same thing. There's no difference in what I did. For the difference is just that the cosine part is the difference, but the addition part of the scientific is just the same as the standard. So you see, this part I said, else if user input, that's what I'm using for just the names of the calculator. That to just say, okay, this is the calculator that I'm using, and then system the other print line. So this is what it's gonna print out. I'm gonna run this code again, and this time I'm gonna be doing it for a standard. So you see what it says? So this is what it actually does. So it's gonna ask you, okay, this is what it's gonna say enter plus for addition, minus for subtraction, the multiplication sign and the division sign. And this is just what it is gonna be able to do. That's the standard calculator. So I'm gonna just put in the multiplication sign, and it's gonna ask me how many numbers do I want to add. And over here it's gonna ask me how many numbers do I want to add. So okay, this part I put in is for the multiplication part. So this part is for the multiplication over here. So this is the multiplication part that I put in. So I'm gonna say, okay, 3. And it's gonna tell me to enter 3 numbers, and I'll enter 1, 2, 3. And the result is gonna give me in double. That's 6 in double. And that's part. So it's gonna ask me if I wanna start over, because the reason why it's gonna ask me to start over is because first of all, I made a string. I made a character in the very beginning of the project, and then I said I'm gonna go back real quick. Okay, so this is a character, and I named it Decide, and the character Decide is gonna be equal to, let's say, Y. So this is what I did. So it's equal to Y, and so that is, so if you put in Y, and then I over here I attach a variable to a scanner, and so I made an if statement saying if divide is equal to no, it's gonna print goodbye. So if you put in no, if I put in no, it's gonna give me goodbye. So that means we're no more doing like any calculator thing. But I'm gonna run this again, and I'm gonna say standard, and let's say multiplication, and 2 numbers, and I'm gonna say 1 and 2. And it asks me if I want to start over, and if I say Y, if I type Y, we're gonna just start the whole project all over again. So this is what it does. So if I put, so that's why I made the while loop and say divide is equal Y. But so this thing does, what this thing does is, if anytime I put in Y, this whole project is gonna start all the way from the beginning. So that's why it's over here. And then this kind of dot close is to close the whole project and say, okay, this is the ending of the project. So this is the end of the explanation for the project. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you. Have a great day.